Good morning and welcome to Listening Live to Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice located in beautiful Encino, California. I usually, we offer this program usually along with my colleague and business partner and wonderful friend of mine, Dr. Robert Jaffe, who also is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified hypnotherapist. Today, he's not going to be joining us mainly because he was in travel on last Sunday. And then he believed that, the plane traveling system is going to be based on social distancing and wearing masks and also prior checking and all of that. So he was confident that, everything's going to be fine. However, as he got inside the plane, he said, I'm going to use his term. He said, "Oh my God, Mitra, it was bumper to bumper. That's how close, people were sitting together next to each other." And he felt so uncomfortable, but, he had to come to LA. He had to be back. And there was no other alternative for him. And then on top of that, from the length of the flight, the plane had about at least 2 hours of delay because the runway was iced. So they had to sit in a plane in that condition and for the ice to be removed. And by the time he got to LA, he was so frustrated and so disappointed about how what all the people in charge are offering about social distancing was not basically considered during the flight. And so since then he decided to do self quarantine. And I just talked to him this morning before the program, and he absolutely does not have any symptoms, which is thanks God. Honestly, I have been worried about that, but he said no symptoms. He sounded wonderful. So I'm confident that once the 2 weeks quarantine is, over, he's going to be joining us, and he's kind of, checking on that to see whether. He said that during the after the flight was over and as they landed in Los Angeles airport, they were told that they need to do 10 days of self quarantine. However, he decided to go for the whole 2 weeks just in case. And then after that, he's going to do a COVID test. And then with the negative results, he's going to be joining us back. And if he doesn't make it until next Friday to come back, which I don't think he's going to do that, we probably will have him join us via Skype from his residence if that's something that we can do. And I'm going to have to check with Jesse or technical director to tell me if that's doable. However, so what bottom line, we are going to be missing him, but the good citizen that he is and a very considerable person that he is, I really appreciate. He's taking care of me as a matter of fact. And because we both offer this show together, and I appreciate his consideration and his very much respectful attitude and understanding of the situation. So usually in this program, he talks about codependency, trauma, and addictions and relationships. And I'm going to follow his lead about what he talks about. Meanwhile, I'd like to invite you all to please call us at 951-922-3532. That's 951-922-3532. Live phone number here at the station. And we would like to hear your questions, know about your ideas and the steps that you have taken towards, relieving yourself from codependency, trauma, what's going on with addictions and all of that. And if you know of somebody that can benefit from this program, please, let them know about what we say here and what we do. So welcome to Heart-to-Heart, KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. And we are going to start our program by talking about, exactly, as part of codependency, we know one of the major factor that happens is that we give away, our personal power. And one may say, what exactly means that we give our personal power? So it is about, for us growing up and to survive. And every single one of us in life is a survivor. If we are here today, we have survived yesterday, we have survived the day before, we have survived last week, last month, last year. So life, it is based on surviving, and whatever we do is for surviving. However, when we grow up at a much earlier age, when we're talking about like, infancy, toddler, and so on, we unconsciously, we give away our personal power. And, to understand, some of this dynamic of how we can reclaim that, there is a formula that I'm borrowing from the book of Codependence, Healing the Human Condition, written by Dr. Charles Whitfield. So the formula that he offers, which I think is really brilliant and unique, is it's a simple formula. So P stands for power, personal power, is equal A, meaning awareness, and R, meaning responsibility. So let's see how that plays out itself, right? So awareness means, how we can understand our inner life, right? When we are in the process of moving away from codependency, we become progressively more aware of each and every component of our inner life, right? The inner life that we are not conscious about it. So what are we not realistically conscious about it? I mean, each of these components that I'm going to be introducing, consciously we know some of it, but subconsciously we don't know most of it. But they are there running us in our unconscious. So these include our beliefs, thoughts, feelings, decisions, choices, needs, body sensations, intuitions, daydreams and night dreams, and other experiences, and plus so much more. So perceptions is one of the main area that primarily, is the umbrella point of all of this that I just, mentioned to you. Perceptions leads to beliefs, beliefs leads to attitude, attitude leads to thoughts, and then feelings, and then behavior, which is our communication system. So we have two communication system. One is verbally, the other one is behaviorally. So we see that how what we perceive in life leads into our behavior and into our communication system. So before we going through the process of learning about our own as a codependent person and how to recover that, it may kind of felt a little bit of a frightening. And then as we enter into our inner life, I see that in my practice, that when we start the process of therapy and we talk about how it is important to understand about our perceptions and how they formed and how they shaped and how they continue to haunt us, I see that some of the clients become kind of fearful, and they say, oh, but what do they do when they find out exactly what's going on inside of them? Well, that's the good news, right? We want to be aware of what's going on inside of us so that we can keep what works for us, and then revise what can be revised, and then to eliminate what really doesn't work for us. And that's how we get our personal power back. And then with that we can look at to see how what we have kept to us has given us the life that we want, or actually we have had a life that has not been joyful and not meaningful. So why do we want to keep those beliefs and system that they can give us something like that? Of course, it's not going to work. So it's best to, feel free, and that's the real key, how to feel free from the boundaries, from, ideas and perceptions and thoughts and feelings that they are only hurtful and there is no productivity to it for us to have it. So that's about awareness. So the more we know about ourselves, the more we know where we come from in sense of, the belief that we have, the ideas that we have, the manner that we conduct our life, how we perform, how we feel, how we think, how we form our relationship based on, the fact that uh, our personal power, we're used to give it away, right, sort of, because that's what we have done growing up. And we're going to get to that to see how that has happened. So the more we can feel free as who we want to be, the more joyful life, of course, we're going to have. So the next person is, a sense of responsibility. So basically, to claim our personal power, we take responsibility for doing several things with our inner life, right? The reality is we are the one who are choosing today to live based on the imposed ideas on us. And then we accept those impositions. We go by, playing them, and we attach to them, and we believe that that's the way life is, and without even, allowing ourselves to see what is it that I want, what is it that you want, right? And not to say, well, that's the way life is, that's the way everybody is living, and that's the way the culture is, that's the way. Yeah, it is, and it may have worked for other people at some point in their life, or actually most of their life, or all of their lives. However, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you, it's going to work for me, and we need to continue living based on the ideas that, for the most part, seem to be obsolete for us today, right? Uh, so we can experience, the uh, looking at our inner life by letting go into, being, and into the weather comes up for us from our inner life, and, take a look at them, and then see, how this is impacting us, and how it's impacting our emotions, and whether we have negative emotions, positive emotions, and how these things are playing out for us. We take responsibility to treat everything that comes into our awareness from our inner life, as being valid, real, and owning that, right? Just this act by itself of owning can empower and, elevate us. We can then consider it, begin to process it, and then, if doing so is appropriate, begin to express some of it with one or more safe people, right? So we need to, the responsibility is profoundly relates to, depends on how much awareness we are getting about what's going on. So I just got, the notice that we are getting to our commercial break, and, look forward to discuss more of this with you right after commercials, if in a few minutes. See you shortly. Welcome to our commercial break. Dr. Mitra here, and Dr. Robert is absent today due to self-quarantine. And, he's such a wonderful, wonderful, mindful person, and we really admire that about him. So this is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. For those of you just tuning in, our discussion for this segment is about how to, regain our personal power. And, for those of you who are listening, to our program, I'd like to encourage you to call in and ask questions. Our phone number at the station here live is 951-922-3532. You may also watch watch our programs, the prior ones, in the archive on SoundCloud KMET 1490 page, and then by going to playlist and click on Heart to Heart. Also, you can watch us on YouTube at heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. And there is a free gift over there for you, which you may download, and then give us your feedback on that, please. And then if you like to get in touch with both myself and or with Dr. Jaffe, please use our private line information, contact information. Sorry about that. If you don't wish to be here on, online with us live, and our contact informations are listed in our homepage, in our webpage at KMET 1490 AM. Welcome back. So with that, let's go back to the part that I was discussing, which was the responsibility aspect of it. So exactly, how can one own what they do? How can we own what we think, what we perceive, what we feel, what the attitude that we have, and owning the end result of it? That's how we communicate, and which includes our behavior. So we can, become, empowered by being aware and by taking responsibility for doing, to become aware of how we are conducting our life and what are the factors behind that. What is it that motivates us to be who we are today, or who we perceive to be who we are today. And many of us actually, live under our false self, not really true self, because our false self is the one that shapes during our childhood, because we are so dependent on our parents, and therefore we just do as they say. But also when we realize that, those standards and those beliefs no longer work for us, we go through some certain level of challenges as to how to let go and how to develop new ones for ourselves. So that's where the struggle is. But we also can take responsibility, by setting healthy boundaries and limits around our true self and our inner life. And then this is how we can do. So we can continue to do so. So you may ask, how do we, give this away? How do we, what happened about our personal power? So most of us never learned much about our personal power. And that's because we continue to live based on, our own false self. We simply, we were not shown, or we didn't think, or we didn't learn, nobody taught us or allowed us to claim and, to use it. Our parents, they used to decide for us. Our parents, they used to do things for us, to feed us, to tell us how to study, to tell us how to play, to tell us, how to clean up and everything. And being children, as children, we are dependent. We are significantly dependent. Perhaps among all the living creatures, human toddler, human child is really the most dependent on their parents for survival. So to survive, we give our power away, and we may still be giving it away, even though we no longer need to do so to survive. However, because we are so attached to those systems, it is all those rules and perceived, information and the beliefs and all of that, they are so embodied in our brain that we don't even feel the heaviness of it. how we feel the heaviness of it consciously is that we're not happy. We're not having an easy time in life. The choices we're making are not working for us, right? And we have a life on, as a what we call it codependent. So we do certain things to keep people around us, but at the end of the day, we don't feel, belong to. We don't feel happy. So, to whom might we give away our personal power? Well, as children, we give it to our parents and other family members. We give it away to our educational system, including our professional schools, by allowing it to teach us mostly, what I call useless and irrelevant information. And Dr. Whitwell, is in agreement with me here. We give it away to organized religions, which in part made up its own rules about us and our higher power, and shamed and guilted us for not following them, right? Yeah, so if you're not, for example, doing certain, based on your family system, you're not doing certain religious activities, you are shamed. If you don't have, certain educational degrees based on your family, perceptions and rules, you are shamed. If you don't make enough money according to your family system, then you are shamed. If and if you want to be belonging to a certain organization, you just have to go by their rules. And now, I'm not suggesting that rules are bad. I'm not suggesting that we should not have any rules. Obviously, there are many rules in society that they are here for our advantages. For example, when we want to cross a street, the rule is for the cars, they have to stop at the red light, and then for the pedestrian to have a green light that gives them signal that they can walk from, and cross the street safely. So there are so many rules that we need to have. However, we're talking about, personal lives and how we get caught in, giving it away in order to belong to. That's where the danger is. We want to belong to certain people, certain groups, families, or partners, and co-workers and all of that, that we allow them to tell us what to do and how to think and how to believe, and therefore we give ourselves up. We don't look at our own needs. We don't look at what works for us, and therefore this is how, if we comply by what they bring to the table and we say yes to that without examining and re-examining them, basically what happens here is that this is how primarily we give our personal power away, and then we're wondering why we are not happy. Well, we're not happy because we're not doing things that feel good to ourselves, or we believe that they are good to ourselves. We never get a chance to examine what we believe is good for ourselves. We just followed certain rules. So we give away, our personal power to relationships with people who did not accept us as our own unique true self in all of its love and its glory, right? And this is really a crucial part where codependency, impacts relationship. Falling in love is one aspect of that if we don't know, if we don't understand what draws us to a person, what makes us feel love towards the person, is it really the true love, or is it the sense of needing to be with the person in order to feel good about yourself? That's where the danger is, and we need to be really mindful of that. First, we need to feel good about ourselves. First, we need to know self-love. First, we need to know self-compassion. If we don't know any of that and we believe that we are in love with somebody, well, we need to pause. We need to take a step back and re-examine our feelings, because somebody can make us feel good, but for us to be dependent on that person to feel good about ourselves, that's where the danger is, and that's where we give up. We give our personal power out to that individual who makes us feel good, right? Or we believe that that person makes us feel good. Uh, Even with that, if the person makes us feel good, at the end of the day, we have that emptiness inside of us, because and that gap is about, we don't love ourselves, we don't know how to love ourselves, and we are not operating from a position of self-love, self-compassion, and self-understanding and our true self. And then for happiness, we become dependent on the other person that brings joy to our lives. But that gap is there and is showing itself and is calling for self-love. So let's see. And also we give away our personal power to our colleagues and peers. From peer pressure to all kinds of toxic, conformity. We give it away to experts. We give it away to politicians, most of whom are, unrecovered codependents and adult children who work in a dysfunctional, system that we call our local, state, and federal governments. As we see, for this is the chaotic situation that we have right now, definitely supports this argument. Well, let's take also look at the peer pressure. Peer pressure primarily happens, the first time we experience it is during our, preschool. I'm sorry, in middle school, and then we feel it in junior high and high school. And so what is some of the danger of peer pressure? Basically, we see that this is the time that drugs and alcohol is introduced to young people. This is when first sexual experiences take place. And then many that I have talked to in my sessions here in my clinic, I have been told that they didn't want to drink, they didn't want to experience drug, they didn't want to have unprotected sex. However, they realize that if they don't participate, then they don't belong to the, circle of their friends. And they call it circle of their friends because that's what they believe it is. But the reality is that a good friend never pushes another friend to do things that they don't want to. And usually friends, good friends, they themselves are not involved in the condition of using drugs, alcohols, or to have unprotected sex. Peer pressure, we see today that young girls, they take, photos of their own bare bodies and they post that on social medias in order for them to be called, strong, and then they belong to their circle of friends, and not knowing that how those photos are being used against them, and they end up in a situation where nobody even imagined it. Smoking is one of them. Driving fast is one of them. The way that a young generation at the age of up to 18 and sometimes 20s, early 20s, they dress up or they conduct themselves, is primarily can be based on peer pressure and the sense of I need to belong to these groups. And then when we go to work, again, there are, work setting has its own different format of how basically, an employee puts up with the abusive employer, abusive co-workers, and because they fear losing their job, they comply with everything that's been requested from them, or most of what's been requested from them. And with the government, we basically have no control, or we have very minimal control depending on who we are, what part of society we are functioning, and what we have access to, or how much we know or we don't, and whether we are somebody from a different country or we are a native person here and US born citizen. So depending on uh, how our lifestyle is and what brings us to a society, an aspect of society, a group of society, fear of loss, fear of not belonging to, can push us into a dynamic of not looking at ourselves, not looking at what works for us. And, we give up our true self, we give up, our self-love even and self-compassion, and we just go with the flow in order to survive. And we believe that that is surviving, living under our false self, living as our codependent self. So, and further, we give our basically personal power away to chemical and food, to addiction, to compulsions. And we see many of that, in our practice. And we give it away to our law enforcement system. Just, let's see, for example, how this system works. Crimes continue, to uh, grow in the society, and it's worsening. And then we believe that we are losing the battle, in this society on drugs. And we just sometimes we decide to just take the matters in our own hands. And we also, there are companies that tell us certain drugs are legal and they are safe to have, like tobaccos and prescription drugs. And we see that nobody's there really to educate us about this aspect. Commercials, they tell us, this smoking this brand is better than this brand, but nobody's saying that what it's going to do to you. And today, from medical perspective, we know that alcohol, consumptions of alcohol, overdose on prescription drugs, even over-the-counter drugs, and and the smoking and things that they seem to be legal, they are actually as damaging as other recreational drugs and alcohol. So there is so much to know about how we are giving our power away. And I just got the notice that our commercial break is coming up. Therefore, I'm looking forward to continue with this discussion right after our commercial break in a few minutes. Please join us. Thank you. Welcome to our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. Dr. Robert is absent today due to a voluntary self-quarantine, and he's doing fine. He's doing great. No symptoms, thankfully, so far. And we know that he has a very good. He's in high spirit, and he's happy that he's doing that. And and we know it's all for the best. So we look forward, as soon as he can join us, he's going to do that. And for those of you just joining us, we're talking about how we give away our personal power. And then our phone number live here is 951-922-3532. Please introduce our program to those that you believe they can benefit from it. And then you can also watch us at YouTube, heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. And you may also contact us on our private line if you choose to do so. And the information is at KMET webpage. So thank you for joining me again. We are talking about how we give away our personal power, and we do it all the time. We do it every day without even recognizing that we are doing it. And some of that was explained before commercial break and before that also. And I'm going to continue to to explain that we give and still give away our personal power to the media, which has an emphasis on politics, selling, and sensationalizing in a practice of, non-stop unhealthy competition. And that's exactly what I really love, to really focus on, because just from the moment we get up in the morning, we go for the news. We see, okay, what's today's news, what's the temperature like, what's the traffic like. So we're looking for essentials so that we can prepare ourselves, right? If I know if there is a heavy traffic, I probably allow more time for traveling. If I know it is cold or hot, then I will use, my choose my outfit, appropriately. If I have more time, then I may have a, more decent breakfast than just grabbing something. So those information are very essential for us. However, in between, here comes commercials, and then it's one competition next to the other competition. And then even today, we see how pharmaceutical companies advertising medications that we don't know what they are, and only they can be prescribed and explained by physicians. But they are putting those medication in such a competitive way, and they introduce it that we think that, our lives depends on it, even if we don't have those conditions. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect, is, cosmetics, buy this, buy that, buy this to look hot, buy this to look sexy, buy this to look, fabulous, wear this to be the only one. And, there is so much. And then next to that, and I think that's probably the worst one, is the food commercial, that how this burger and all of that is different, and uh, so basically, all of them at the end of the day, collectively, they are telling us who to be, what to eat, and how to take care of yourself. And frankly, we don't need any of that. To be ourselves, to be our true self, all we need is self love. All we need is self care. All we need is self compassion. And we are as beautiful as those, and even more beautiful as our own true self. We really don't need all that additives. Those are only marketing, those are only competition between different companies to make more money and more fame for themselves. And do we really need to wear certain outfits to look more sexy? Do we need really to wear certain makeup to look more beautiful? Do we need to have, that wine or certain brand, or something, or things that they say that we need to add to ourselves in order to be more acceptable? That's basically how it comes down to, do this to be better, do that to be belong to, wear this to be accepted, do this to be loved. And so all the message that they're giving us collectively is that you're not good enough as who you are by the way you look or the way you talk. Is that really true? I'm asking this question. I'd like for you to ask this question from yourself. Aren't you good enough as who you are, as who you were born? And we always say that at the beginning of our program, and I didn't say it today. We are born into the world as our loving, authentic, true self, which is open, calm, curious, emotionally available, connected, honest, confident, compassionate, sexual, and trusting. This is what we really need to know about ourselves. This is our cosmetic. This is what we eat. This is what we feel. This is what we look like. We are that, beautiful creature that God, chose for us to be in this planet and to live and to enjoy. Why do we want to, add things to ourselves in a way that only profits other companies and other people and takes our authenticity away from us, right? I think this is something serious to look at, something serious to understand. I think one of the good things, at least if I can say, that happened during pandemic is that for us to realize we don't need all these additives in order to survive in society. The only thing we need in this society for us to survive is our authentic true self, is our health, is our people that we love and they love us back. Is our health, is our be able to just spend time together. We have so much, so much, so much to feel grateful for that we didn't realize them before. And also look at how much money we spend on all of those things in order to fit in. I think that was really life in an insane way to a degree. I'm not suggesting that having some of that is not good. Of course it is. But do we really need to be dependent on them, right? So something to think about, right? And also we wanted our self, our true self, how we get connected to our higher power. What is our spirituality look like with all that the chaotic messages that we get in society? Do we even have some time left to think about God, to think about our spirituality, and where are we with that? When was the last time that we give ourselves a few quiet moments to think about what do I have in life to have gratitude for? Well, the fact that we are alive, that deserves gratitude. The fact that we are healthy, we are, that's gratitude. The fact that we have food on our table, the fact that we have a job, the fact that, we have a roof, we living with some people that we love. And even if we are apart because of COVID, we are still able to connect using technology. There is so much that we can have gratitude and feel our personal power for having them. And so let's not basically disregard them. Let's understand them, and let's spend sometimes every day to meditate and to understand what we are, who we are, what we have, and then have sense of gratitude for it. We give away our power, personal power, to helping professionals, who are there to help us, to assist us in to have, much deeper healing. We give it away to celebrities and, who may have, misled us away from our own true self. We give it away to perhaps the most incompetent one of all, our ego, our false self, our codependent self. And this is what we do, because when we start, to have somebody as our idol and we want to look like them, we want to be like them, we give away our true self. We become our own false self. We become the codependent self, as though if I look like that actor or actress, all of my problems are going to be solved. But we don't realize that those actor and actress, when they are, photoed, or when they are on the air or anything, are some of the most brilliant, makeup artists and then fashion, models and all of that have helped them to look the way they do. And also, their photos have been photoshopped. But then again, I can understand when, a male partner picks up, a magazine and looks at that beautiful photoshopped, body, and they compare that with their wife who had 2 kids and have given birth to 2 kids and has a stretch mark, all over her tummy. They want the tummy of that, that actress, that beautiful, actress who's about at least 10 years younger and never have given birth, and then has been also, still it's been photoshopped. So that's the false self. We don't look at that beautiful wife who's gone through so much to give birth, to raise the kids, to get up and every day before everybody to make sure that family is going to be having a good breakfast. And then after everybody goes to work, she goes to work and come back home. Same tiredness, but she doesn't give up and she continues to prepare dinner and also get everybody ready for the next day. So we don't consider that, but for the moment of having passionate sex, the husband wants that flat, beautiful, you know, uh, six pack, belly that he saw in the magazine. Now that's operating based on the false self, based on the codependent self, not the true self. Uh, and I have seen many of that couples here in my practice, that the wife cries and they say if they knew that how their partner would have reacted after they lost their shape, she would have never had kids. So that's another form of codependency. So when we talk about loss of personal power, there is a lot to discuss. Reviewing these and other possibilities can be useful in considering the genesis of our woundings and our codependence. So once we realize that, how we're having a life as a codependent, we can discover that we now have a choice. The choice is that we can be our authentic and real, or to continue to be false and codependent. So I like to ask you, for you to ask yourself, which one do you think is going to help you ultimately? Which one do you think is going to benefit you? Do you want to continue and believe that nothing's going to change in your life and continue to be the codependent and, bring all those additives to your life and believe that this is how your life should be? Or do you think that, it's time for you to free yourself and choose a life that's, belongs to you based on your ideas, based on how you look, based on how you feel, based on how you believe, and look at them and see if you need to revise any of it. And yes, there is a life free from being codependent. There is a life free from being your life under your false self. And that's by starting to put your guards down. That ego, which is our codependent self, put your guards down and have gratitude for what you have, for what you receive, and then take it from there and be loving to yourself. So I just got a notice that our program is about to finish. I'd like to thank you for spending your hour with me, and I would like to invite you to join us next week, Thursday, at 3 p.m. for another episode of Human Sexuality with myself, and then next Friday, another episode of Codependency, Trauma, Addiction, and Relationships with both myself and with Dr. Jaffe. And until then, all you need is love. Have a wonderful weekend.